Meanwhile, back in June.
I can't get you out of my mind. It's like I feel it for the first time. Been thinking about you all night. I've been searching for this all my life.
Next up is Ebenezer Baptist Church. Maybe you could hold it.
I'd like somebody to mention that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to get his life serving up. I'd like for somebody to say that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want you to say that day that I tried to be right on the walkway.
Like the church?
It's
supposedly, yeah, it's been looking like this since 1922.
Yeah, so it's just interesting seeing and being able to sit and walk in the path that Martin Luther King and other civil rights leaders have been walked, set, worship. So yeah, it's very surreal. So John A. Parker was the founder in 1886 through 1894. Pastor A.D. Williams, the second pastor, 1894 to 1831. And this is Martin Luther King Sr., who was the third pastor of 1931 to 1975. Fourth pastor, current pastor, Raphael Warnick. Otis Moss, the third co-pastor. Alfred Daniel Williams King, second co-pastor. And then Martin Luther King Jr., first co-pastor, 1960 to 1968. So there is the original Ebenezer Baptist Church across the street. And then right here is the new church. And there is Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolence and Social Change. So the new church is modeled after the African tribal meeting hut. Its roof is ribbing that is strongly reminiscent of the African thatch. Behold. The Behold sculpture commemorates the heroic principles that guided the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On January 11th, 1990, Mrs. Coretta Scott King unveiled this monument as a tribute to her late husband and as an inspiration to others to fight for dignity, social justice, and human rights. Patrick Morelli's sculpture reflects the ancient African ritual of lifting a newborn child to the heavens and reciting these words: "Behold, the only thing greater than yourself." The church has always been a second home for me. As far back as I can remember, I was in church every Sunday. It was the Sunday school that helped me build the capacity for getting along with people. So the Martin Luther King National Historic Parks Visitor Center offers an opportunity to learn about the life and legacy of Dr. King. The center features exhibits and displays that highlight the history of the civil rights movement, including the Montgomery bus boycott and the Voting Rights Act. There are also multimedia exhibits that showcase the life and the work of Dr. King, including his famous speeches and letters. Visitors can view artifacts and memorabilia related to Dr. King, including his Nobel Peace Prize medal and personal papers.
That spirit from Dr. King's leadership is there.
In Washington Irving's familiar story of Rip Van Winkle, the most striking thing is not that Rip slept 20 years, but that he slept through a revolution that would alter the course of human history. Every society has its protectors of the status quo and its fraternities of the indifferent, who are notorious for sleeping through revolutions. But today, our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake, to adjust to new ideas. If we do not act, we shall surely be dragged down the long, dark, and shameful corridors of time reserved for those who possess power without compassion, might without morality, and strength without sight. In 1963, on a sweltering August afternoon, we stood in Washington, D.C. and talked to the nation about many things. Toward the end of that afternoon, I tried to talk to the nation about a dream that I had. And I must confess to you today that not long after talking about that dream, I started seeing it turn into a nightmare.
And we just find your mind.
We can be free and just, and so the things can be free, and so people can't get
There was mixed emotions with me, but at the same time, for the most part, it was good. It was almost like, we had overcome.
It was routine for us to collect hundreds of knives from our own ranks before the demonstrations, in case of momentary weakness. There were lots of provocations, not only the screaming of white hoodlums lining the street, lining the sidewalks, but also groups of Negro militants talking about guerrilla warfare. We had some gang leaders and members marching with us. I remember walking with the Black Stone Rangers while bottles were flying from the sidelines, and I saw their noses being broken and blood flowing from their wounds, and I saw them continue and not retaliate, not one of them, with violence.
Help somebody. As I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word song, if I can show somebody he's traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a Christian, if I can bring salvation to a world once lost, if I can spread the message as the Master taught, then my living will not be in vain.
Thurgood Marshall, President Carter, Rosa Parks. Are these her little feet? Ralph Abernathy. He got some little, I guess they're kind of big. Rita Abernathy. Andrew Young. John Lewis. He is an ancestor. Jesse Jackson. Isaiah. Your awesome. Stevie Wonder. Lena Horne is an ancestor. Look at her little feet. They're about my size. Oh, he's an ancestor. Maxine Waters, look at her little feet. Look at Mr. Gregory's. He's an ancestor now as well. And you know his kids. Yes, you know his kids. Who are his kids, Jay?
I don't know his kids.
Yeah, you do.
I forgot his kids.
Ayana. Remember she was singing?
Oh, and our first trip together?
Mm-hmm. And then remember Satori?
Yeah.
Remember she did my house for you to come? Remember? And she be cooking and stuff. Satori. Oh my gosh. He know his kids.
Was that his kids?
Yeah. So that's what this is, the National Historic Park. Martin Luther King National Historic Park. Serving as both a museum and a hub of social justice activity, the King Center is also Martin Luther King Jr.'s final resting place, attracting tens of thousands of visitors annually as a living memorial to the inspiring leader. Dr. King's white marble crypt lies outside in the Freedom Plaza, surrounded by a magnificent 5-tiered reflecting pool that symbolizes the living, giving power of water. The tomb bears an inscription of his famous words, free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. A small circular pavilion in front of the crypt house houses an internal flame that burns continuously. The Chapel of All Faiths, located at the end of the Freedom Walkway, represents the ecumenical nature of Dr. King's work and universal principles of the world's major religions. We will not be satisfied until justice rolls down the water and righteousness like a mighty stream. Look at his passport holder. He classy. I'm gonna need you to get classy.
I do got a classy passport. Was all his Abraham Hicks pins?
Cufflinks. And look, he traveled with his cufflinks in a whole cufflink jewelry box. And he was stylish. Look at his cologne. What's that? Artemis? Oh, that's what he wore. He got a Muhammad Ghandi book.
He had his own wallet.
He had his wallet monogrammed. Yep. He was not playing with you. Listen, this is what Jay needs. This is a suitcase. Don't play with me. All right? He said he traveled thousands of miles and spent many days away from home. As a veteran traveler, he traveled light. This suitcase, which he took to Memphis on his last trip, contains many, many personal items characteristic of a man, to include an appointment calendar, notes for speeches, and things to do. And 2 of the books he authored, which he used as references for speeches, also included his personal toiletries, wash and wear suits, pajamas, and a minimum of items this busy man carries. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. If Martin Luther King, the Jr., who was out all the days and all the nights, this is how he packed. And y'all trying to tell me Jay can't pack lighter? Look, that's the hotel key. Look at the hotel key. Then make sure you weren't losing that key. Those his travel shoes. He carried his own alarm clock. He weren't gonna be late. Look, he got some gloves, some shirts, some handkerchiefs, some dungarees, because you know they were called dungarees back then. He got some books. He got his notes. That's like a laptop. That's what a laptop would be. Yeah, stop playing. That's a Wrangler jacket, name brand Wrangler jacket.
Wow.
Strength to love. And where do we go from here?
Or the aftermath of the riots that followed.
It's like you never think about the fact that Dr. King's father and mother were still alive when he was killed. You never think about that fact. How did they do? How were they doing? I've never heard Coretta Scott King sing before. This is a replica of the monument in D.C.
I can't get you out of my mind. It's like I feel it for the first time. Been thinking about you all night. I've been searching for this all my life. You're just my type. I've been